Welcome to episode 68. It's draft season of the Sports Hour Plus with Miller and Watson. Special guest Madison, who was supposed to go down for a nap about 30 minutes ago and has been boycotting sleep. So all you parents out there know what I'm going through. You can see Mike in the background. We just moved into a new house. Things are crazy here. So Kyle, how are you? How was your weekend? I know last week I was not able to come on because I was moving. But I'm going to let Kyle talk for a second while I try and get her a little quiet.
Yeah, what's up, y'all? I'm well. The weekend was good. Y'all know, down below, I covered the Juneteenth event in Philly. So that went well. It was kind of hot. Obviously, it was the start of like the major heat up here. But it's great. I'd rather be hot than cold. I know Morgan disagrees, or she agrees. She's shaking her head. All right, so
I think I'd rather be hot than cold, but the humidity that's been the last couple of days have been horrible.
Right. Well, you're from the DMV though. This is nothing to you.
It's not, yeah, I know. At least up here, the humidity is not nearly as bad as it is down in DC.
Yes.
But as we're getting
I'm good.
We're in the dog days, kind of, you know.
Yeah. Late June, getting into July. We got a lot going on for y'all, but I'm good. I'm glad Morgan was able to be here. Matt subbed in for. We have some hot topics, a hot show for you. Before we get there, like I said, happy summer. Oh, I'm going to do a shout out early because today I realized when I checked my website that this is the 9-year anniversary of WatsonSports6.com, which started it all. So while Morgan deals with that, congrats to all y'all. I don't know. I believe there's some crossover here. So for those of you that check out my sports blog, thank you so much for making it last for 9 years. Crazy. And if it wasn't for that, who knows what would have happened. I might have just stayed in my broadcast lane and all of that spawned Morgan and I in a friendship together. And now look at this. We're a podcast. Then the podcast is getting close to 2 years in another couple of months. 9 years of the blog. We just combined in 11 years right now. So that is crazy. So so check me out as Morgan feeds her child. Check the social media plugs. Morgan is at M_India_Miller. Madison does not have a social media yet, but this is her first time on the show. so she will have that. She'll remember that she tantrum and cried through her first podcast episode. But this should savor that moment. Mike's in the background trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, so at M_India_Miller is Morgan's X/Twitter. At Colin W. Watson is mine. And we're gonna get ready to get the show, but I'm gonna check on the comments. It's RC, our boy RC. What's up, RC? Happy summer. Hope you're staying cool in your part of the world. Hopefully it's not too hot where you are. Yeah, we're ready to get started. I can start because Morgan is, like I said, dealing with her child. Oh, whoops, skip the question. The NCAA, for those of you that don't know, is expanding the college basketball season to 32 games. Now, we believe this is men's and women's, I believe. I was doing some research. I think it's men's and women's. I don't think it's just men. 32 games, but you got to wait one more year for the 2026 to 27 season. So my reaction to this is this. I always think it's weird to have like odd number games. No, that might just be because, I'm born on the 26th on an even number day. So it might just be my personal opinion, but I just never liked odd number like games in a season. So I'm all for this. Now, as far as for the personal safety and the player safety, hopefully the strength and conditioning, because we've seen this with the NFL, like your body gets used to 31 plus games. Injuries start happening, different things start piling up. So, I'm just of the mindset that I hope, obviously these young adults are, 17, 18, 22, 23-year-olds, so they'll be fine. But even still, your body gets used to something and then you change it a little bit and then unfortunate things start happening. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. But if they can make it through the initial like injury scares that'll happen for going from 31 games to 32 games, I think this is great. I think more basketball is better for everybody. I'm really good. I think, like I said off there, I'll say it on there. This is the first time in a while I can actually say that the NCAA did something, and I have no problem with it. I know Morgan is probably laughing in the background because she knows I literally find everything wrong with what the NCAA is doing. But I have nothing. I have no complaints about this. They spoke to my little basketball loving heart, so I'm happy about this. But my only other question is this being more college football games, because was good for the goose, good for the gander. But I'm happy as far as basketball. Happy for those young adults, those student athletes. I think more basketball is better for everybody. Morgan, if you're ready.
We are struggling over here a little bit, so I will let you take the first couple topics, and I will pop back in.
Okay. RC agrees with me. It's cool as long as they don't moving upwards to 40. Very true, RC. I don't think they can do that because of when the season starts, unless they're trying to move it up to September. I don't know if they want to deal with tripping over that in college football at the same time. But yeah, moving right along. Is this a good move for men's and women's college basketball? I think it is. Like I said, I think more basketball is better for everybody. We know that for most of these colleges and universities, their top three sports are always football and basketball. Now, depending on the school, the order might reverse. Like if you're UConn, obviously basketball is more important than your football program. There's a couple of schools that are like that in the world. Most of them are Big East schools, and some of them are Northeast schools as well. But you have that, and it's always good. Like it's good for more basketball. It's better for everybody. Like I said, it's good for an extra game. Might mean the difference between somebody getting into March Madness and somebody not. And I think this is good to team up with the fact that for those of you that don't know, they will be expanding the amount of teams that get into the NCAA tournament in both men's and women's basketball. So I think this is good. I think this is great for like me because I hate the Lunardi bubble. I think it's stupid. But, there's a lot of people, as a sports person, as a sports media person, I have to put that to the side. I personally think the concept is stupid, but I know a lot of y'all like it because a lot of y'all check the Lunardi stuff and the rankings and everything else to see if your team is going to get in or not. I personally just think, and I've said this on this podcast before, it should just be records and that's it. But, for those of you that like that stuff, like bracketology, it's great for you. But as a basketball fan, I hate it. Oh yeah, I see. Let me know, man. Hit me up. You can come on soon if you want. Like you can come on right now if you're available. I'll give you the StreamYard link. But I'm of the mindset that this is oops. Sorry, y'all. That this is great for the basketball lovers and for those men and women, because like I said, it can make the difference between who gets into the tournament, who doesn't. And, I just personally can't find anything wrong with it. And like I said, Morgan knows I usually can find something wrong with what the NCAA is doing, but I can't knock it this time. So moving right along, unless Morgan says she's going to time out on this one, but I know she'll want to respond to this. According to Mike Florio and Pablo Torre, an arbitrator found that Roger Goodell and the NFL encouraged owners to limit guaranteed contracts for veteran players. Now, those of you, this might have come out of left field. It definitely came out of left field to me yesterday when Pablo Torre and Mike Florio got together. I thought it would be a nice little cute interview about their love of football and everything going on. But then they dropped this bomb about, I don't know, Pablo Torre must have an extra degree in investigative journalism, because I don't know how he found this, but he found it. Him and Florio found it. Florio, being the lawyer that he is, the former lawyer that he is, came up and started talking about this. So basically what happened with this case is an arbitrator found that it's very likely Roger Goodell and the managing council of the NFL strongly encouraged owners to limit guaranteed contracts for veteran players. Now, this was in 2022, I believe. So right after the Deshaun Watson contract that had us all being like that. So this is right after that. And, I am not surprised. My reaction to this is I'm not surprised. You all know who watch the show. I famously say every time we bring up the NFL topics that what does the NFL stand for? Morgan's probably mouthing it as I say it. Not for long. So, I'm of the mindset that this is no surprise to me. My only surprise about this and reading up on it was that even though this arbitrator found that this happened, he didn't have a preponderance of the evidence. My criminology and lawyers who watch the show love that term, preponderance of the evidence. So it's likely, but they just couldn't find any evidence of actual collusion. I think text messages between Michael Bidwell and other people saying good job on, basically, they didn't actually say this, but the gist of what they were saying was good job of actually screwing over, Kyler Murray and making sure that he got more non-guaranteed money. He actually got guaranteed money on that contract. Morgan and I think, talked about that contract when it happened. I know I personally thought it was stupid. And now we know that they basically colluded to make sure that no one got that money like Deshaun Watson. And, they got out of it because of a legal quandary. But other than that, I mean, that's what good lawyers do, right? They find loopholes, and that's why the NFL has some of the best lawyers on the planet, right? That's why Mike Florio, because that know my background, Morgan and I have both done work for that show for PFT. So Florio always says that basically that the NFL always finds a way to take advantage of a legal loophole, because that's what they do, right? And so, I am not surprised that this happened. I'm not surprised that, I always say, as Morgan, I've said it to her face and anybody else, I don't know, I know y'all love football, but the NFL has the weakest players union of all the major sports. And I think this just adds to what I've been saying, that they're weak. They need to fire all their representation. They need to get some new blood up in there, because I don't know how you let this slide. And still, what was it, a year or two ago, Morgan, that they avoided a strike and just put a new CBA up there. So y'all knew this was going on. Like, we're just finding out about this. This is a surprise to the football players. So this was 3 years ago. So I think it's crazy that they got a new CBA and that they just walked up into a new contract knowing how these owners are screwing them over. Morgan?
Yeah, I think there's been, since that Deshaun Watson contract where they gave him that crazy max, and he's been not good. There's been conflict after conflict after conflict with it. I think that they, have been worried that these max contracts will pretty much, you don't want to say bankrupt them, because that's crazy. They're never going to bankrupt the owners. But the problem with these max contracts is that there's people could see it as there being no incentive to try hard or to play better. And you get to these situations where you're a team like the Browns that have this max contract on Deshaun Watson, and they keep putting him out there because they've paid so much for him, and he's not producing a good product. So their games are shit, and they, they're not fun to watch, and they're not enjoyable for the consumer. And I think that the other, the league doesn't want that. The league wants there to be incentives for the players, and that they get these incentives through playing, and that not everything is guaranteed.
Okay. I mean, I disagree. I obviously disagree somewhat with that. That I think that for as short, because the NFL players have some of the shortest careers and sometimes shortest lives of all the athletes, and I think they should get their money. They should get their guaranteed. I think it's a travesty.
I'm not saying that that's right. I'm not saying that's right. I'm saying that that's, in my opinion, why Roger Goodell and the other NFL would encourage other owners to not give these max contracts. That would be why I think. Now, I think that these players that have shown that they deserve a max contract should be able to get one. But that's my assumption as to why Roger Goodell and some of the other owners might be putting pressure on other owners to do that.
I totally agree that obviously there's a difference between moral and what makes you money. If you've ever been in a journalism class or an ethics class, we say this all the time, like the moral, what's right and what makes you money, right? We're in a capitalistic society. So, everything is about getting more than the other guy. So I totally understand from the NFL's perspective why they did it. I think it's dumb. I think that, eventually some player will get a lawyer that will out-lawyer the NFL lawyers. Morgan and I might both be in retirement homes by the time that happens, but somebody is going to do that. And I think this is great to bring attention to a great scoop by Pablo and Mike Florio. But Florio is always on the cutting edge of these things, but it's good that he has somebody else outside of PFT to talk to. And I am very surprised that, all the bigger organizations that are non-NFL broadcast partners, like, Yahoo's, the Athletics, and the others, the ones that don't have broadcasting deals. It's not surprising that ESPN, NBC, and them ain't covering it. But the other people in sports journalism not covering it. Like, this is right for Yahoo's investigative team. Morgan remembers, like, every other summer, it seemed like Yahoo's sports investigative team was finding something on baseball steroids. So I'm really surprised that Florio and them outscooped that investigative team. But, I don't think anybody's surprised that there's collusion in Roger Goodell's NFL. I don't think anybody's surprised. But moving right along, what will this mean for future negotiations between the NFL and its players union? Morgan, are you ready to go first, or you still want to?
Yeah, I think that this is going to cause there to be a big rift between them and there to be less trust there, because inevitably, if you know that the people are rooting against you getting a match contract, then what is it's going to, I think it's going to cause more holdouts and more issues like that, because if you know that they don't want you to get these contracts, it's how do you even negotiate when you know what the NDF is going to be?
Oh, I agree totally. I think that all you really have in labor now, I can't speak for Morgan, but I'll just speak for myself. I've never been in labor negotiations. I've covered a couple more over these last few weeks. Morgan knows this. Y'all know this if you follow my Tribune stuff. I've covered them the last few weeks to months. But as far as actual facing somebody big time, like a president of a big time organization, and trying to figure out what we're going to do as far as labor negotiations and representing the union, that's experience I don't have. But I think in those things, from everybody that I know, my family members that do that, my friends, my people, we all got people in a union somewhere, right? So they always say that, one of the things that you have in union negotiations, as Morgan so eloquently pointed out, is trust, right? And if you don't have trust, you get nothing. So, I'm of the mindset that I'm not going to be surprised if after the next 5 to 8 years, once this current CBA is up, if there isn't a strike, because like I said, people like me are basically saying, as players, y'all knew about this 3 years ago and y'all still said, thank you, sir, may I have another, right? This adds fuel to my fire, as like I said, why the players union is so weak. And it might be intentionally that way. I understand that the NFL is a selfish business, right? I'm not calling these players selfish, but it's a selfish business, right? And I totally understand that, but at some point, y'all got to stand up, man. I mean, the NBA players did it, MLB players did it, soccer players are currently doing it, college students are currently doing it for their athletics. Y'all got to stand up. If college students college athletes facing the NCAA got more balls than you, I think you got a problem. So, I'm of the mindset that these players need to figure something out, because y'all keep retiring 28, 29, 30, 25, 22. Y'all keep retiring after the lives of football and going and trying to save your life. But if you're trying to save your life, but you got no money or no earnings from your NFL stuff, then, I know that most of them are probably saving in a way, but they're supposed to be about making it better for the next player, right? But I just don't understand this from the NFL's, from the players' union's perspective, why they did this. But I guess more will come out soon. But if I'm the players, I'm firing all the current executive leadership of the players' union, because you need first blood.
And if I'm the owner, it's again, not saying this is right, but whoever let this slip, that is you got to get them out. Whoever managed to let this slip, this is a bad, bad, bad look for them. And it's going to cost them, I think, a lot of money in the long run, because they have to now build that trust back up, which I don't think is going to be easy to do.
Correct. Facts. So the Morgan's other favorite topic, her least favorite quarterback, and my least favorite quarterback in Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Aaron Rodgers said this will be his final season in the NFL. And that excitement that you heard was all the people who don't watch Pat McAfee like me and everybody else when they heard that say, praise the Lord. Because, like, again, I don't know Aaron Rodgers personally or professionally. I've covered him from afar, so I've never interacted with him. He could be an all right guy. I doubt it, but he could be an all right guy. So, I'm of the mindset that Aaron Rodgers, he was a great quarterback, but I think he was more trouble than he was worth. I hope it works out for Pittsburgh, but I have no faith in it. Matt and I got into that last week. I said this. Here's my hot take, Morgan. Not really a hot take. If Mike Tomlin can keep the Steelers afloat and make at least the first round of the playoffs or the second round of the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers, with what's left of Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback, he deserves Coach of the Year. There should be no other person should get it but him, because I feel like personally that I don't know who signed off on this, but I think if Mike Tomlin personally signed off on this, I have no idea like why he did this to himself, because I don't think anybody wants this headache. But good for Aaron Rodgers. I doubt there will be outside of Green Bay, and I don't know if the Steelers play Green Bay this year. But if they do, I'm sure there'll be a tape for him in Green Bay. But outside of that, I don't think anybody's like, no one is sad that he's retiring that I know of. I mean, I hope he has a good life. I don't wish anything bad on him, but I'm of the mindset that this is probably, I've said this on this podcast jokingly before, but I think this is probably, football is the only thing keeping him from getting a job in the White House right now. So, if y'all don't want him to be the minister of propaganda for the White House, you might want to root that he keeps playing. But Morgan might have a different opinion than me. So
no, I'm so ready for him to not be in the NFL. He is an attention hog, an attention seeker. He cares about the media and things. But what I am interested for this season, and I want us to keep an eye out for it, is will he be nicer to the media? Will he take more questions? Because what does he want to do post-career? Does he want to be in broadcasting? What does he want to do? Does he change the way that he interacts with the media this season because of maybe wanting to get a broadcasting contract after? I have no idea. But I'd be very intrigued to see, now that he has made that very clear, if we will see him doing more interviews. Will we see him coming on the Manning cast? Will we see him doing all of these things and trying to be more professional this season than he has in the past?
Knowing him and knowing how he thinks, he'll probably be like, being a football analyst is just too limiting for me. I'm going to start my own podcast, and I'm just going to guest roll on Rogan and them, because he's going to be unleashed once he retires, man. Y'all gonna see a side of him that probably only his family members know. So good for him. Good luck. But what will, Morgan kind of got on this, what will the legacy of Aaron Rodgers be? I think the legacy of Aaron Rodgers will be, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league, a top like during his era, like a top 5, top 6 quarterback. I'm of the mindset that he was a great quarterback, but as a person, I
think that as so many people, he's hurt his legacy in the last couple of years. I think if he had retired in Green Bay, maybe stayed 2 more years there, I think that we would all be speaking about him differently, even if he was kind of a crazy person. But all his antics in the last 3 years, I think a lot of people are just done with him.
No, I agree. Like, when all I can say about you is good riddance, despite the fact that you was a great quarterback. Like, we all played with him, boys and girls, in Madden. Like, he was a great quarterback. Even in college, he was great. Like, but that at the end of the day, I think like Morgan said, he hurt his legacy. Obviously, for those people during the pandemic, he hurt his legacy by saying he was immunized and wasn't. And there's a lot going on here. He's got a very complicated legacy, but football-wise, he's stamped. He will be a Hall of Famer, no doubt. The only knock on him is that I think for his talent, he should have had more Super Bowls. That's more a knock on him and the way Green Bay built around him, but it's more a knock on him. And I just think that kind of like Brett Favre, I think Jordan Love might be the first non-sociopathic quarterback that Green Bay has. So I'm of the mindset that obviously Aaron Rodgers, he has not robbed anybody's welfare money, so he's not as bad as his predecessor Brett Favre. But as far as complicated legacies, though, he's one of the few. Like Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. Football, his legacy is untouched, but everything outside of that, problematic. Unless someone more got there. Okay. Moving right along to the NBA draft. Our reactions to this. I mean, what a crazy first round, right? I mean, obviously we got the second round tonight. A hot take for Morgan, because I know Morgan loves the NFL draft, so I want to get her take on this once Madison calms down. But honestly, I think the one thing the NFL should take from the NBA is the one thing I love about the NBA is you get the analysis. Ain't no set. There were some sad stories, but it wasn't like purposely like broadcasted out, I guess, like in the Malika Andrews, and then would just be like, oh, his dad died and leave it at that. It wasn't no extra with it. That's no knock on, like I said, media. I know there's a producer or director saying, ask that question. I don't blame any of the sideline reporters or anybody if I ask that question, because Morgan and I know from inside baseball that there's somebody on the other end of that IFB saying, ask that question. So I'm of the mindset that the one thing the NFL should take from the NBA is shorter time clocks between selections, get the analysis over as they're walking from the stage to your reporter to ask that question. But it should be 5 minutes. It shouldn't take 10 minutes. I really don't care about a linebacker from Bloomsburg. No offense to Bloomsburg, but I don't care about a linebacker from whatever university, and I don't care about Adam Schefter or any of them droning on about, oh, it's going to be great. And then that center is just in the background as a third string center, and we waste time on the analysis. The one thing I'll give the NBA draft, they do not waste time. They show you the pictures. They let Jay Billis talk. Yeah, after that 5 minutes is up, boom, the pick is in. I like that. I like that so much better than the NFL draft. But that's just my personal opinion. I should let Morgan defend her favorite draft. Go ahead. You're still on mute.
All right. It's this house is such a disaster right now. I have a hard time. She's quiet all when you're talking, and the second I start talking, she gets so angry. I'm probably in the minority. Like, I don't love the drafts. I feel like you watch for your teams or for your players to get picked, right? And that's kind of like, I think that I would feel the same way about them no matter what format they do it in. I do agree with you that I think that the NFL dives really deep into those tragic stories. And I wish that they didn't. It feels exploitative when they do that. There's something about the NBA draft, and I don't know if it's because there's more foreign players or what. It's a little smaller. It's more intimate. It feels cooler. The NFL draft has become this big show, this big extravagant thing where I feel like the NBA draft still has that sense of coolness to it. The outfits are great. It's summer. There's the stars are there. I don't know. It feels different. I love the coaches that are there, them dapping up their college coaches, they're hugging. I love that aspect of it that we don't get in the NFL. The NFL, and it's a lot of it definitely is because the college football scene has become so professional that it's different. I just like the way that the NBA draft is situated. I like the NBA draft better. And again, I don't love watching either of them, but there's something really cool about the NBA draft. And it might be that college connection that, you dap up your coach, you give your teammates hugs, you're right there. It's a small group of people. I like it. And I think they do a great job with making it still, like I said, still feel cool. Whereas the NFL draft is feels like a marketing slug, a giant show type of deal. Less about the recruits and the rookies than about the actual NFL, where I think that the NBA draft is still so much about the kids that are getting drafted.
Right, and I think you're hitting on the point of like the difference between the sports. Obviously, like basketball, there's less roster spots, whether you're in high school, middle school, whatever. Morgan and I know the pain of getting cut or not making. Well, I won't speak for her. I know the pain of not making a cut of a basketball team that you want to be on. So I won't speak for her. Maybe Morgan made every team. Maybe she was a little prodigy out here. But basketball is a little bit smaller of a sport. Obviously, you don't have as many roster spots. It's only 12. Whereas football, what is it, like 30 spots in football? Something like that, right?
For rookies or for in total?
No, I'm just talking about total roster. I mean, obviously, we don't know.
52-man roster.
52-man roster in the NFL. What
plus
college is like?
Squad spots,
Yeah. So, like, obviously, it's bigger. It's a bigger roster, and that's all aspects of football. Obviously, you have JV, varsity, like the lower you get. So, football is a much bigger sport, and you don't have like the aspect of, oh, even though we played in different colleges, like you do in basketball, we were high school teammates. Blah 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 blah. And so, I think it adds to the rivalry because basketball is a smaller little club and a more exclusive club than football. I think that's why football players are so jealous, if I'm being honest. I don't know if that's the case or not. And obviously, it's a little bit more of a me sport. The NFL would say that's great because we don't have to worry about guaranteed contract. I would say that's bad because this is what you get. You get an award show without the awards in the NFL draft, whereas at the NBA you get a little bit more of a show. But my reaction to this is before I get to what I really want to talk about, we'll get to I know Morgan didn't miss the Sixers talk, but we'll get to them in a minute. But the biggest surprise for me of the draft so far, and just my draft reactions as well, is that I was very surprised that of all the teams that would have taken Ace Bailey, I thought he would have ended up in Northeast Purgatory, which is your Washington Wizards. But he wound up in all purgatory of being in Utah with a bunch of Mormons. Have fun. I mean, you go from Piscataway, New Jersey, being close to your family. I think he's from New York or like the Northeast somewhere. And now you go to Salt Lake City. And you have to look at Mormons. No knock on Mormons. We love our Mormon fans, but we all know Utah's Mormon though, right? Like, I'm not telling y'all any news by saying y'all, Utah's former senator was Mitt Romney. I think that tells you all you need to know about Utah. So, I'm of the mindset that, this is that was the biggest surprise for me. I didn't think Utah would take him. I think Utah, that's a great spot for him. He wanted to chuck up shots, and he gets to do that in Utah. It might have looked better for him to be in Brooklyn or Washington doing that because, they would actually put them on TV. But at least, I mean, the Jazz are a sexy little team. Lauri Markkanen's good. Like, it's not totally terrible. Walker Kessler, everybody's favorite big man, not named Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic and Bam Adebayo. Everybody loves Walker Kessler. So, I think that's a sexy little team to go to. Now, do I think they're going anywhere? No, I think Lauri Markkanen should ask out right now. But I was surprised about that. Yeah. The Atlanta Hawks actually having a good draft. That was surprising to me because, 2 years ago, they were, Morgan and I were talking about Trae Young. Is Trae Young leaving? And now they actually have a GM willing to build around him. So I think Atlanta's going to be hot. But obviously, I think I was just real happy about the Sixers, but I won't get there yet. But that was my biggest thing. And then I have no idea what the Pelicans are doing. When we do this next week after the second round's over and we talk about winners and losers, my biggest loser of this draft will be the Pelicans because I like Derek Queen. He's a he's a Terrapin, so Morgan likes him because he played in her state or in her area. Well, I don't know. Do y'all count Maryland as a DMV school?
Not really. But I'm from Virginia, so I think of the DMV schools as mainly the Virginia schools. So, probably I guess it'd be a DMV school. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, like I'm of the mindset that, I feel for Derek Queen because I don't know how that's going to look next to Zion. But, I think that was a bigger surprise. And then the Brooklyn selected the kid from Russia, Igor. I won't even try to pronounce his last name. That was a surprise. And then Hansen. I mean, what a story for him. He just came to just sit down. amongst the crowd, be that tall guy that may or may not go in the first round. Thought he would wait until the day to get his name called, and lo and behold, the Trailblazers went and took him, and they got their Yao Ming. So, no, I have nothing else to say. I'm gonna run through these comments real quick because I know RC has been saying something.
Yeah,
Utah.
not the biggest surprise. Of course, drafts are always something goes a little wonky. I got to talk my UConn a little bit. I was surprised how low McNeely dropped, all the way to 29, going to Charlotte. Not where I would have wanted him to go, but I think he has a lot to prove. With RC, yeah. So Knipple, going and McNeely going to the Hornets. Both really young kids. Both, I believe, are both still in the teens.
18, 19, yeah.
Yeah. So those are two young kids that can. They'll fight for a spot on their team. They have endurance, and maybe they'll help make Charlotte relevant. I mean, for both of them, I guess he 100% RC 100% he should have gone back one more year. I completely agree with you. I the only thing I'm thinking is that maybe there wasn't a spot for him. I don't know. They have a lot of good recruits coming in. Of course, I think they would have made a spot if he wanted to stay, but I think he was just always in that mindset that he was going to be a one and done. I respect Dan Hurley a lot, so I'm sure they had some really serious conversations about it. And it took him a really long time to decide. Him and Caravan were kind of on the fence for a while. So hopefully everything goes well for him in Charlotte. I was surprised that he dropped. I thought he was going to be in the 16, 17 range, but he got drafted. He was the last kid left in the green room, which doesn't always feel good, but he did say that he liked being drafted that late because he got to see all his friends get drafted. So sure, he would have rather gone up there with his friend Cooper Flagg, but I think it was a great draft, and at least the first night. Second, is it second and third tonight, or just second?
They only have 2 rounds, so tonight's the end.
That's right.
Well, to get to what I oh, go ahead, finish your thought.
No. I was gonna say, are we ready to move on to VJ?
We are. Y'all already know I got even though I went to Syracuse, I have my Baylor, my shirt that just totally, I did not plan this. It matches the Baylor kind of green. But VJ, Matt and I talked about this last week. I'm sure Morgan watched about how I said they couldn't lose either going with Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe. Now, one of the problems with doing a podcast, or one of the good things about doing a podcast, so was that, as we ended, we got the news that Ace Bailey had canceled his workout with the Sixers. So it was kind of a little late. Had we waited a day, we probably could have talked about it. But we did get the Lakers news in, which was probably more important anyway. But I don't know what Ace Bailey was doing. He's probably going to be my not him. But I'm of the mindset that the Sixers got this is a steal. He scores 15. I just wrote a whole article about this. Check it out in the description box below. Edgecombe Sixers. But he's a 15-point a game scorer. He had 42% from 3-point line, 43% field goal range. And he's not going to be asked to, as I pointed out in the article, he's not going to be asked to do a lot with the Sixers because obviously they have Joel Embiid, Jared McCain, they have Tyrese Maxey, they have Paul George. So he's not going to be asked to be outside of his role. His role going into the Sixers is use that explosive athleticism that he has, that 36 vertical. Do y'all know, before this, Russell Westbrook had the highest vertical at 32. This man has a 4-inch higher vertical than Russell Westbrook. They are comparing this man. They're saying his ceiling is the low end of his ceiling is Jimmy Butler, and the high end is D Wade. So, and Morgan knows I love D Wade. D Wade is one of my favorite Big East players ever. I love D Wade. Like if it wasn't for Allen Iverson, I couldn't love the number 3 more because I love D Wade. Right? I think he should have been a Sixer, but obviously didn't pick that high that year. But I love D Wade. So D Wade, if he is D Wade, oh my goodness, like this is great for the Sixers. Like they're kind of on this dual track where they're trying to stay as a championship contender, and the East is wide open. We'll get to that in a minute. But we got a good report about Joel Embiid. Seems like his rehab is going well. Should be ready by October. So Morgan knows I was happy to hear that. So like I'm of the mindset that if all of that works, like VJ Edgecombe is like what the Sixers needed. He needed that. They needed that dog, that person who can take your best player and basically be the equivalent of a shutdown corner in football and shut down his side. He can rebound. So Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain don't have to. Now, the only problem with the Sixers right now is they have to leave with a power forward. So I'm hoping they get a power forward. But outside of that, I mean, I have no issue, no notes. Like, good job, Sixers. This is a great pick. We know the one thing that Daryl Morey has been able to do is draft. I mean, you know, Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, and Dem Bona, now VJ Edgecombe. Like, no notes here, man. This is great for the Sixers. After all of that pomp and circumstance, people are like, are they going to trade? Morgan knows I've been saying this or text anybody who's following me on Twitter. I knew they weren't going to trade that pick because there was nothing that Daryl Morey would want or Elton Brand in what's available right now. So Edgecombe, great pick, great get, hard worker. Talked about how he lived off a generator for 7 years. Like, I can love him more. He seems like a good worker. Seems like he's going to be great getting in the gym with Tyrese Maxey at 5 a.m. Already posted a tweet of him in his Sixers gear. So, you know, he's just pandering to my little fan heart. So I'm very excited. Morgan?
I'm very happy for you. I think it's a great addition to Philly. I'm going to let you talk Philly for a little bit while I try and get her calmed down. This is abnormal. I don't know what's going
on. Yeah, I know. Did you hear SBRC? I just talked about that. You think he's going to be a stat? Yeah, he was a good player. I mean, I didn't watch too much Baylor basketball. I won't lie to you, but I mean, when I watched him in the tournament, I saw him lock up Cooper Flagg in the tournament. Like, he's pretty good. I don't know if he'll end up being Jerry Stackhouse, but Jerry Stackhouse is pretty good for the Sixers as well. So, like, Stackhouse is not a bad comparison either. Like I said, I think that's the low end of his ceiling. I think the high end of his ceiling is Oladipo or Wade. Obviously, I'm hoping that he's more Wade. Some people might say Jimmy Butler, and I'm being disrespectful to Jimmy Butler. But Jimmy Butler, I think Oladipo just did a little bit more than Jimmy Butler, but I think Jimmy Butler is a better overall player. But you know, we'll see. I mean, here what his addition brings to the Sixers is he gives them, like we just saw the Pacers and the Thunder, two teams that have like 4-guard lineups where Aaron Nesmith and Lou Dort and Alex Caruso were like the best defenders of that series. So I think this is the Sixers basically saying that we need more guard, we need more wing depth, and positionless basketball besides the center position. Like, this is great for the Sixers. I think it gives them that switchable defense. It makes their defense multifaceted. He is going to thrive in a Nick Nurse defense. I mean, he said himself he hates it when somebody scores a basket and he's on the floor. So I love that. I love that. I love a player like that. I love a dog. You know, he very much reminds me of like Jalen Hurts when he initially came, when Jalen Hurts was given like 1 or 2 sentences, like quotes and stuff, but you knew he was a dog. Like, that's what VJ Edgecombe reminds me a lot of Jalen Hurts. Obviously, just with a little bit more of a skill set because he's a basketball player. So he has to do both ends of the floor. But I think he brings that multifaceted nature. I think he brings some dog mentality. I think if he can develop his shot and like can just attack with his athleticism, he has great slashing ability. My only thing with him is I think he got to get a little bit more muscle so he can learn how to finish in the NBA. But when you go up against Joel Embiid, PG, Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, like he'll have to get better. It'll be trial by fire then. But you know, I think this is great for the Sixers. I think they got the best athlete in the draft. I think I'm ready right now to like go get my Edgecombe jersey as a fan. Right now I got my journalism hat on. But I think this is great. Objectively, this is great for the Sixers. They have somebody who could actually like shut down the floor for them. So I'm of the mindset that this is great for them. And you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens, but that's why we do this. Are the Sixers primed for a big run in the wide open Eastern Conference? I think so. We'll get to the Celtics in a minute because Morgan knows I love talking about the Celtics. Sarcasm. But the Sixers, I think, are primed for a big run if everybody's healthy. But you can say that about every team in the East right now. Like Damian Lillard is down. Tyrese Halliburton is down. Jason Tatum's down. I feel like it sets up great for the Sixers. Everybody's like the Knicks, but the Knicks don't have a coach, so they're hoping that Jason Kidd does a Terrell Owens and forces his way to New York. But outside of that, like I like Mike Brown. I think that's great for the Knicks, but I don't think that's their coach that's going to get them to the championship. And there's no disrespect to Mike Brown. He's won championships before. I just don't think he's that difference-making coach. But I think the Sixers are very much primed for a big run in the wide open Eastern Conference. I think if they have good help from PG and Joel Embiid this season, and they consistently play like 65 to 70 games, then they should be a top 3 seed in the East. And there is some precedent here, like the last time the Pacers made the finals the following year, the Sixers did. So we'll see if that holds true or not. Morgan knows that I'll be doing this podcast live from South Philly if that happens. So, I love the mindset that this is great for the Sixers. And obviously you never hope injury on anyone. But I mean, this is prime for a Sixers opportunity. Like this might be the best backcourt depth that they've had. This is the best backcourt depth that they've had in the Joel Embiid era. And like I said, I think Morey and them did a great job of getting him. Moving right along to the Thunder, unless Morgan has anything to add. The Oklahoma City Thunder beat the Indiana Pacers. We all saw that game. Unfortunately, Tyrese Halliburton did not heed my advice. If y'all watched the show last week, I was telling Matt I don't think he should play. I know he will do everything he can to play, but I think I said this during the podcast. Morgan will remember. I think I said that, he might play, and because he's got a bad so I understand. I'm of the mindset that that just is a thing, but I wasn't hoping that he went down. But for the Thunder, I mean, it looked like they might lose that game because it felt like they were playing down to their opponents. But they were able to put it on when it mattered. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander totally deserved that MVP, like a historic season, like regular season MVP, finals MVP, and the scoring title. Like, I think that might be the best season ever in the NBA. So I'm of the mind this was a great finals. It's very unfortunate that Tyrese Halliburton went down and that happened to the Pacers because, if Tyrese Halliburton stayed that game by going down to the wire, he might have had like another game-winning shot in OKC, but it wasn't to be, and that's a shame. But, that's what it is. Like in football, basketball, and all the sports, like sometimes it's about injuries and being healthy at the right time. And Oklahoma City Thunder, like I've said on this podcast multiple times, like outside of being a Sixers fan, I've basically been the unofficial Thunder hype man. But I've been telling y'all they've been coming, and they were the deepest team in the league.
Yeah, I think I want to say that you said, besides the Sixers, that you said that they were going to be the best team when we did our really early on in the season, ranking for who you thought was going to win. You definitely always had them on your list of top teams. Were you surprised that the Pacers were able to take them to 7?
No, I said that their best matchup would have been the Pacers because the Knicks would only take them to 5 games or 6 if they let them. And so I think this was great for them. They grew up right in front of our eyes. I said, it's unfortunate that they got injured, that Tyrese Halliburton got injured. He didn't look out for himself. I understand, as somebody, like I said, hurt my femur, I understand, what it does to you to have a lower leg injury. Lower leg injury just does not describe it. I know Morgan said she's had, she had an ankle thing, so she knows too that that's all you really got as a runner, as a basketball player, as anything. Once you lose that trust and that leg, that ankle, that meniscus, that anything, it's over for you. So
we're going to talk about if he'll be the same player ever in a little bit. But getting back to the Thunder a little bit, do you think that this win solidifies greatness for them? What do you think that this says about Oklahoma City as a franchise, as a team? Is was this their time? Are they going to be a dominant force for the foreseeable future? Or was this just kind of their year and then, somebody else will be there next year?
I think that they're younger. You never can tell in the second apron world. Like, we'll get to what the Celtics are doing right now to get under that. This new CBA, I think the NBA might have like the greatest CBA ever because of what it's doing to these teams. I think they're going to be here for a while, and they never are. But I'm of the mindset that the Thunder right now, like, they have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He'll probably need another a super duper max in a minute. But they have their main three guys, like Chet's still under a rookie contract, so they have at least two more years to compete before like they have to start thinking about, I got to pay J-Dub and Chet Holmgren, and I might not be able to put like the depth around them that I need. So I think that they'll be here for another 2 or 3 years. They'll be a dominant team. I still think, don't get me wrong, I still think they're one of the best teams as long as, because just like Jalen Brunson, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander could decide, I want, instead of being a $500 million player, I want to be a $460 million player because I want to save money for J-Dub and Chet Holmgren. So that could totally happen. But, I'm of the mindset that the Thunder are going to be here for a while, and this win just says that year, if we're being honest. Like, if they didn't crap the bed against the Mavericks last year, they'd probably be back-to-back champions, because I said this last year, I didn't think anybody was going to beat the Thunder last year. And obviously they solved that guard problem by getting Alex Caruso. And I think as long as they have good defense and lengthy defenders, they'll be here for a long time. I think they're going
to be here for a long time. Moving on to the Pacers, do you think that they're going to be back soon? Or again, was this, especially with Halliburton's injury, is that going to inhibit him?
I think that with the Pacers, I think that we kind of alluded to until this injury. I think that I think the Pacers have a good team. They're like the Thunder of the East, but now, like, I don't think a Pascal Siakam-led team will help them. Like, they might be bottom in the East, and by bottom, I mean like 6, 7, or 8 seed, like a playing team without Tyrese Halliburton. So I don't think they'll be back into the NBA Finals in the near future. Maybe like 4 to 5 years from now, when Halliburton has settled down a little bit and looks like himself. I mean, he's for y'all that don't know, he's only like 25, 26. So he could have super healing factor, but an Achilles and a calf is something that's going to be hard to come back from. And he was dealing with hamstring stuff as well. Like, I'm just of the mindset that the Pacers will have to have like a Howie Roseman level offseason for me to be like, oh yeah, they're them, because I don't think so right now.
I know we kind of talked about this a little bit. Kylan has kind of said that he did not think that Tyrese should have played. I think it's so hard to say. When you are the heart and the soul and the mind of a team, taking yourself out when it's not a season-ending injury is so hard to do. Most athletes, I don't think, given the chance, if they were allowed to play, would make the decision not to play. I think that had to have been a decision that came from the top down. I don't think if you ever gave any athlete like anybody. I mean, if you were to tell any athlete, Game 7, Super Bowl, national championship, whatever it is, you can play. It might not be good for you, but you can play. I don't think most people are going to say no, whether that's right or wrong. Hindsight is 2020. Losing that game definitely makes it worse. Tearing your Achilles makes it even more worse. But I think you'd be hard pressed to find an athlete that would tell you, no, I'm not going to play.
No, and I think, I got into it
on your first shot for it, like especially at a younger player. So should he have played? I mean, hindsight, no, of course he shouldn't have, but I don't think there was anything that was going to stop that kid from playing that night.
Sure. I mean, like I said, obviously, he was not gonna, as I said on the show, and as I said to Matt, I got into it with a friend of the show, OJ, because OJ was misunderstanding. Those of you that follow me on Twitter probably saw this. Like OJ, we work for the same media organization, but he had a little bit of misunderstanding of what I was saying here. Like, obviously, he was going to play. Like I said during the show, there's nothing that was going to stop him from playing. But what I said, knowing the experience that I know I've had, and I'm not a millionaire with a lower leg injury, I think he shouldn't have played because here's what I think, right? You know, we saw this with Joel Embiid last year, right? Joel Embiid should not have played. And I said that too. That New York Knicks series. And he did. He came back early, right? He played, then he had Bell's palsy. All the Knicks fans, I wouldn't say all, most of the Knicks fans were making fun of him, had him on a t-shirt, and everything. He still played in the Olympics, but like I've seen this before, right? Players who tough it out, especially in basketball, and it winds up doing irreparable harm for them in the following season. If Dame Lillard coming back from a blood clot, I would have said the same thing. Like, you're coming back from a blood clot. Sit down. Look at him. He went back from coming back from a blood clot to tearing his Achilles, right? So, like, you know,
about this, do you think that there's something to be said that maybe the playoffs are too long? That, you know, maybe I don't know what you do to make it shorter. But I mean, the only other option would be to make it 5 games that rather than 7. But you know, I feel like so many of these players get hurt towards the end of the series, and I don't know. Do you think there's anything to be said about shortening some of them, making the series shorter, or you think still?
No, I think the playoffs are fine where they are. I think what happened this season is, like we said, was happening now with the WNBA too. Like, we are in a season that came right after the Olympics, and if you notice, besides Dame Lillard, all the players that got injured, Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, they all played in the Olympics last summer, right? Like, Joel Embiid played in the Olympics last summer. Like, they had miles and miles. They never really got a chance to rest. Like, you did the Olympics. You know, Olympics is over mid-August, and then like you got maybe a month before training camp starts, late September, early October. So all of these players, besides obviously Damian Lillard and Kyrie Irving, but the rest of them were all Olympic. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he got injured. Olympics, right? Like, everybody, all of them played basketball, and then Joel Embiid said it. I didn't give my body like enough time to rest in between basketball because, you know, a lot of physics fans, I think, you know, what it was just leftover from coming back too early, and he should have just rested. I'm one of those people who didn't care that he played in the Olympics. Just like some people the Pacers fans will argue that Tyrese Halliburton, all he did was sit on the bench for most of it. But he still played, right? He still practiced. He still did all of that stuff. So, like, I think what this is a combination of them just playing too much basketball. I think that's what that is. I mean, like I said, you see the pattern. All of them played in the Olympics or the Euro basketball tournament. And so they got injured. But I think Tyrese Halliburton shouldn't have played just because, like, we saw this with Kevin Durant, that series against the Raptors, right? It was a calf injury. He started with a calf or a hamstring injury, and then by the end of it, it was his Achilles. Kendrick Perkins, you know, as much as I deride Kendrick Perkins, there's a video of him telling Tyrese Halliburton, same thing I did, but obviously from a professional standpoint, not to play, because he said Kevin Durant did the same thing. They told him it was a calf injury. He played, and boom, towards Achilles. So, you know, I don't know how to connect to the calf and said that, you know, you just can't something for you. You know, I say this a lot of times, right? In basketball, I think some basketball players need to be a little bit more selfish because, like, Tyrese Halliburton, I don't know, the Pacers, I know Pacers, the Indiana fans, they love basketball, but very soon you'll see people who are not as objective as Morgan and I that'll be like, well, Tyrese Halliburton shouldn't have played, and they should just trade him because he's injured. He's damaged goods. I mean, Skip Bayless already basically said that at the end of the finals. So, like, there's a lot of people that are going to turn on him very soon. I won't be one of them, neither will Morgan, but like, because he had one of the best generational playoff runs ever. Like, he's not overrated. But like, I'm of the mindset that that's what happens. You're in a fickle sports world, especially in the NBA. Like, you're a GOAT, you're a hero 1 minute, the next minute you're the villain that everybody's trying to trade out the city. So like, I'm of the mindset that I don't begrudge any player for looking out for themselves when it comes to stuff like this. Because now,
do you think he'll ever be the same player again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I can finish that thought and I'll get into
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But like,
Sorry.
yeah, I think like no, all good. No, I think that like you look at what happened to Halliburton, right? He went from a calf injury to an Achilles injury, and now for the Pacers, right, they go from finals runner up to basically being just a less involved version of the Mavericks, where everything's on Pascal Siakam. You're praying Aaron D. Smith and Andrew Nembhard to make a stand. TJ McConnell, you're praying you can keep him. And now you're looking around, you're like, who the heck's going to be the point guard? Like, Tyrese Halliburton's out. We need somebody, right? You trade. Like, what do you do, right? And so I think he will eventually. I mean, he's 25, 26 years old. Morgan can fact check me on this. What is he, 25, 26? He's in his late 20s. He's in his mid-20s or late 20s.
I just had him
but I think I heard he was 20. He's not more than 27. But like, I'm of the mindset that yes, I mean, I was 25. Oh yeah, so he'll have like, they might say kind of like Jason Tatum. They might say he's out for a year and he might come back by the playoffs or the play-in tournament. But I think that Halliburton will eventually be the same. I think he'll kind of be like Kevin Durant. He'll have the same average. He'll be able to pass, but he won't have the same. Now, the good thing for him is he's a jump shooter. He's not a dunker. He lays the ball up. So, like, he might be a little bit less affected by an Achilles injury, but I don't think he'll have the same. Like you see it with Kevin Durant. He doesn't have the same lift on his shots anymore. He's bricking shots that he usually makes. I mean, even in the Olympics, you saw it, right? He didn't have the same lift on that jump shot. Like, Morgan knows she wasn't. Did you watch him? I mean, because he went to school near you. So did he? You watch him in high school?
I wasn't really watching basketball at that point.
Okay, no problem, no worries. But like, like, you're from the area that he's from, the DMV. Like, basketball is really all they do over there. And so he wasn't the same, and it just really is for me a problem with these Achilles injuries, ankles or legs. I mean, you see it with Klay Thompson too. Like, these players, they'll be the same, but it's just not the same. Like, and that's a shame for Tyrese Halliburton, because this playoff run is going to be capped off by that injury, and then you'll just wonder, like, would the team have been better off? I mean, I don't know. Like, it was such a simple thing that he was doing. It was the same thing that happened the game before, how he re-injured it. He took the ball behind his back, went to make a move, and just fell down on that floor in the same spot. Like, you just doing a thing. So for him, I think the determination for him and myself, if he's the same player, is, does he, I'm saying the word of the day for this podcast is trust. Will he trust that Achilles again? I think that's, Joel Embiid talked about it too. Like, does he trust that he can make that move again when he comes back? If he comes back this year or next year, right? Can he make that move again and have the trust that his surgically repaired Achilles will hold up? That'll be the determinator for me. I'm sorry, that was a long-winded way to answer your question. I think he will eventually be the same player, but I think it's going to take 2 to 3 years. I think he won't be the same until he's like 28, 29.
Yeah. I trust is such an important word that I feel like you don't think about enough when people are coming back from injuries, because there's trust not only in yourself and in that whatever body part it is that was hurt, but you trust in the doctors, trust in your strength and conditioning coaches. There's a lot that go into it rather than just time. And you have to be willing to give yourself grace to, know that it's an uphill battle. It's not just going to be, you get it fixed, you wait the time, and you're the player that you were 5 minutes later. And the fans that have to trust that he's doing everything he can to get back to the position that he was when he tore it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. But if anybody can do it, right, Morgan and I have both been 25 before, so we know you feel invincible, and them healing factors that you have in your 20s ain't what you have in your 30s and 40s. So, he could come back way earlier than anyone expects. So, and I say the same thing about Jason Tatum, because Jason Tatum is, I think, just as old as him. So we'll see. But yeah, speaking of the Celtics, right? Jrue Holiday, they traded him to the Portland Trailblazers. Kristaps Porzingis traded to the Atlanta Hawks. So the Boston Celtics blowing it up and trying to get back into contention. Now, there was this contention between myself and a friend of mine. She thinks they're having a fire sale. I think they're just trying to get under the second apron. Like I said earlier, the NBA should give themselves a hand clap, because this CBA and what they did to prevent super teams from lasting more than like 3 years should be applauded, because the Celtics just sold for $8 billion. Obviously, they were beat by the Lakers. I know they're mad about that. They got sold for $6 billion, $8 billion. And now these new owners, I mean, this is the thing with the NBA. You have these new cheapo owners that are coming in and want to stay under the apron. They pay $8 billion for their new investment. And this is what happened. This is what's happening. Trust, again, word of the day. Trust is gone now. If they feel that you are expendable, as they did for Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, it doesn't matter that you just won a ring a year or two ago. Like, that was under a different ownership group. This ownership group has no loyalty to you. And as for an NBA player, this is why I'm happy that the NBA and all the other leagues have guaranteed contracts, because when you're at the whim of an owner, as Luka Doncic found out, you can really be screwed over from your money. And so Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis obviously signed their new deals last summer, and so they'll be all right. But, you know, Drew Holiday's wife talked about, Lauren Holiday talked about, you know, how devastated he was when he got traded from Milwaukee and how that affected their family. Now he's back in Portland, so I can only imagine how his family's feeling, how he's feeling. Kristaps Porzingis, I think we all knew the writing was on the wall this season. I was telling Celtics fans that they were probably going to trade Kristaps. So I didn't think they would trade Drew Holiday because he's the heart and soul of their defense. But, I mean, this is the new ownership group now. This is them trying to get back into title and cap space contention and using the cover of Jason Tatum's injury, knowing that they'll probably have a top pick next year, even with Jaylen Brown. Because, I mean, you look what's happening, right? They traded Drew Holiday. They traded Kristaps Porzingis. They might not have Horford. So it'll just be Derek White and Jaylen Brown. They'll probably trade Derek White. So they'll probably have a top 10, top 12 pick as long as Jason Tatum doesn't come back next year. I know Celtics fans, they don't want to hear that. But that's what you're looking at, right? Like, Tatum has the same injury as Damian Lillard and Tyrese Halliburton. So he's probably going to be done a year. Maybe he'll come back for the playoffs. But, like, Tatum's probably done for this season, for this upcoming season. Same thing, right? Like, now the Celtics have to rebuild and try to rebuild around Tatum or Brown. So the decision, it's funny because you remember, Morgan, I was talking about this time last summer, that the Celtics will need to make a decision between Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And I think thanks to this injury, they basically already made their decision. That's Tatum over Brown. So, you know, I just think that this is them trying to stay in the title contention, but really what they're doing is blowing it up. You know, I would be surprised. Like, Jaylen Brown will probably stay. I don't think he gets traded until the trade deadline next year, because I think they have to stay competitive. They have to keep TD Garden rocking, and they won't have Jason Tatum. So they need somebody to sell tickets, and that's Jaylen Brown. So Jaylen Brown might be safe, or he might be dealt. Who knows? He might be dealt tonight. I don't know. And again, I have no sourcing on this. I don't have any Celtics sources, but I wouldn't be surprised because, you know, the NBA draft has turned out to be as unpredictable as the NFL draft with all these trades. So you never know. Morgan?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously you know way more about it than I do, but when you trade two players like this away from your team and you are already knowing you have someone with a season-ending injury, I think it does mean that you're blowing it up, in my opinion. I think that just means that you're like, all right, let's see what we can do, but we're not expecting anything. And they're kind of slowly starting to ease the fans into the idea that this team that they've grown to love as a whole will not be there come probably the trade. Probably you're right. The trade deadline of next season. All right, moving from the NBA to the WNBA. So Caitlin Clark is going to miss tonight's game against the LA Sparks because of a groin injury. This has been a tough season for CC when it comes to injuries and missing games.
It's crazy because we thought that would happen last year.
Yeah.
Because
so, you know, it's no secret that she is not my favorite player, for many reasons. I don't not like her. I just, you know, am
I more of a fan of Caitlin Clark than you? Wow.
Probably. I they make me choose Caitlin or Paige, and I'm obviously a Paige girly. So
that's true. That's true.
They want to have this big rivalry, and you got to choose one. I'm obviously choosing my girl. But yeah, I think this is surprising to everyone. People were pleasantly surprised that Caitlin was able to stay so healthy last season, not get injured. She's able to, she got the, people were so angry that she didn't make the Olympic team, but she was able to take that time off and rest, which I think was helpful to her. She's had some significant time off this season. I don't, my thinking is, and I have no idea if this is true or not. Last season, your rookie season, you come in, you're Caitlin Clark, you're this gigantic hype, and you have this feeling that you have to prove yourself to people, right? You have to prove yourself to your teammates, to the fans, to this, to that. And even if she wasn't feeling great, maybe just pushes herself through and plays. This season, she realizes, I don't have anything to prove. I've proven what I need to prove. So I don't want to make myself hurt. I want myself to be available for the playoffs if we're there. I want myself to be, as good as I can be down the stretch. And so when she's not feeling 100%, she takes those games off. I don't really fault you either way for those. I mean, it's hard. Caitlin's in a position like LeBron James or Steph Curry or some of these gigantic names where, people travel to see her play. And when they take a game off, people tend to get pissed because they've taken their time out to go and see them play, blah, blah, blah. And I see both sides of it. But that would be my interpretation maybe of why we didn't see any injuries last season and we've seen so many this year.
I can see it. I definitely could see that she's been pushing through that. And like we said, I think we said on this show before the season started last year that we probably expect, just because of how close it is to the season, you kind of see this with Paige. And I mean, I'm a fan of all of them. I'm a fan of Caitlin Clark, just not a fan of her fan base, right? But I'm of the mindset that Caitlin Clark is a dynamo. It always sucks when she's not there. But they should have enough to be able to stay competitive with the Sparks. I think it's a shame what happened to her. Like Morgan said, I think she's probably I think she's legitimately injured because, like, in the games that I watched,
I do too.
She doesn't
have that spark that she's been having, if that makes sense. And right. There might be part of it that's attributed to her fans being so crazy and being sorry, just got the wacky. Did you just get that update? I just got the wackiest notification.
No, what update?
Super Bowl performer arrested Thursday for halftime protest, also listed as victim of alleged Antonio Brown shooting.
Oh, the bull from Kendrick's thing that did the flag?
Yes. Apparently is also the person who Antonio Brown was attempted to murder.
Oh, wow. Ain't catching anything yet, right? Okay. Yeah, okay. But Caitlin Clark, you never want to see an injury. But I think Caitlin Clark is just a dynamic player, and I think I want her at 100% because I want to talk positively about her. Like I said last week when we were talking about the fight, I'm sure Morgan's mad that she missed. But like I'm of the mindset that Caitlin Clark, when Caitlin Clark's good, she's like one of the best shows in the league outside of Paige Beckers and Nafisa Collier, right, and Asia Wilson. But like I am of the mindset that Caitlin needs to be 100%, and I think that's the best version of Caitlin Clark when she's 100%, which is crossing people up. Like I watched her drop like 20 points against the Liberty a couple weekends ago. So like I think the best version of Caitlin Clark is a healthy Caitlin Clark. So I think she needs to take her time. I know, kind of like Morgan said, people pay a lot of money to come see her, but you don't want people wasting their money to come see a okay version of Caitlin Clark. You want to see Caitlin Clark at her best. So I'm of the mindset, take your time. I mean, there's enough drama to go around with the fever. That's a good segue into this. DeWanna Bonner was released by the Fever after all that was said. Caitlin Clark did all that to help her get her 5,000 point. Again, no knock on Caitlin Clark, but it seems like DeWanna Bonner was turned off by whatever is going on inside the Fever, the atmosphere of the Fever. I don't know if it's Stephanie White. I know Morgan can probably speak to that because she lives near where Stephanie White used to coach the Connecticut Sun and has probably been to Mohegan Sun Arena, so she can speak to Stephanie White because she's probably seen her in action. But I know she's dealing with like a sick parent or something. So it seems like there's a lot going on with the Fever. We don't really know anything. We know that Wanda put on her Instagram that the truth will come out in due time with a picture of her son. So we'll see what truth she's talking about. DeWanna Bonner is a tough player. She played for the Connecticut Sun. She's won rings. She's not one of those players that's not ready for the spotlight. So I'm interested to see what happened here. But yeah, I think this is weird. It's unfortunate for the Fever because they actually had a deep team, and now that depth at forward and / center is going to take a hit now. But I'm interested to see where she goes, and I'm more interested in what this says about the atmosphere of the Fever because I really want to know. We know the fan base is semi-toxic, so I want to know what's going on to make DeWanna Bonner be like, "Nah, I'm out." I want to know that more than I think. I think this says more about what's going on with the Fever as a team than it does about DeWanna Bonner. But I'll let Morgan talk. Morgan, are you ready, or you want me to just keep going? No, you good? Okay. So I think she'll end up. She hit waivers, so they're kind of playing it like a college teams, right? They're like saying her representation saying she want to end up with the Mercury. So I think that's where she'll end up. I like that pairing of her and Brittney Griner and everything that the Mercury have. I'm interested in that. I know the Mercury haven't been as good as they should be, but I'm interested in that pairing. I think it can work out. And I think she'll end up with the Phoenix Mercury. Again, I'm more interested in what this says, the stuff that we don't know about what's going on with the Indiana Fever. And I hope that their reporters that cover them are on this and aren't more Caitlin Clark fans than they are. I mean, this is a big story. I mean, I don't think this says anything about Caitlin Clark, but I think this says a lot about what's going on within the atmosphere of the Fever that only players see, right? And Morgan and I know you need sources for that. That stuff that goes on when you need sources to get the story. So I'm interested in what's going to come out later about the Fever. Moving right along because I see Morgan is still taking care of Maddie. But this was the shock of, I think, the MLB. Y'all know we only talk about the MLB when it's important. So Rafael Devers, I mean, another New England sports icon gets traded to the Giants. I mean, I won't pretend to know. I mean, Morgan lives closer to that, so she might get more Red Sox stuff than I do. But I know she's a Yankee fan, but she gets more Red Sox stuff than I do. So maybe she can
did you see all of the there was all these people because it came out on Father's Day. And there were all these people telling their dads, and their dads were like, "Ha, good joke," and they're like, "No, Dad, go look," and they're like, "Yeah, okay, good joke." I mean, it's wild. I don't exactly know what the Red Sox are doing.
Nobody does. I don't think they know.
I mean, especially when you're not playing well, and to trade an absolute fan favorite like that just kind of means that, one, you don't care about the season, and that you're giving up a little and a lot, because even when you're playing bad, if you still have fan favorites, people will still come to the games. And not that they won't go, they're the Red Sox, they're, gigantic franchise, but it's surprising. I don't know. I just have no idea. I don't understand the move at all. They made a lot of Bostoners, Bostonians, whatever you call them, really mad, and angry Bostonians are no fun for anybody.
Sure. I mean, what a time if you're a Boston sports fan, right? Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis this week, a couple weeks ago, You know, they had their version of the Luka Doncic trade with Rafael Devers. Father's like cooking. I can just imagine cooking over the grill. You got your barbecue ready, and your son and daughter's like, "Daddy, they tripped. What? Nah, you lying. That ain't
Well,
Father's Day joke."
Like, there was like lots of TikToks, lots of videos coming out of like, sitting around in a circle and that being the, it's crazy.
Man. For baseball fans, that's the equivalent of their Luka Doncic trade. But yeah, I think Rafael Devers, everything that I know about him, he was a stud for the Red Sox, helped them win their last. I think he was around for their last championship. And like Morgan said, fan favorite. Obviously, she lives in Connecticut. I live in Philly, so she gets more of that Boston smoke comes closer to her than it does to me. But I'm of the mindset that it's a stud. Like I know that, right? Rafael Devers is a stud. Like Morgan said, I don't know what the Red Sox are doing. And there's no salary cap in baseball, so they don't have that as an excuse. I mean, the Dodgers are putting together an all-star team. Like they basically have Team USA and Team Japan's best players all on one roster. So I'm actually surprised that he didn't end up with the Dodgers. But, I know the Giants are happy. They got a stud now. They got somebody who people actually want to pay to see. It's unfortunate for the Sox. I don't think anybody knows what John Henry still runs it, but what the Henry family is doing. So, who knows? I know LeBron James is also a minority owner. I'm not saying he had anything to do with that. I don't want to put that on LeBron. But, that's crazy. I mean, I have nothing else to say. This is for people that are like, Kylan, what's the Philly equivalent of this? This is the equivalent of the Phillies trading Bryce Harper, and then like a week or two later, then trading the Sixers trading Joel Embiid. Like this is the equivalent of that. Like and then the Eagles trading Jalen Hurts and having it all happen in like 4 weeks. So that's what this is the equivalent of. So yeah, we'll see what happens with this. I wonder if this is like the Red Sox saying we're tired of paying people money and them not performing. I wonder if this is just a wake-up call to the Sox. I don't know how they've done since this trade. I'm assuming not well, right, Morgan? I mean, she's a Yankees fan, so she would know. You're still on mute. I don't know if Madison's quiet.
Yeah, she's kind of quiet. I don't know what is going on with her. She's having a tough day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's just staring into the abyss, thinking about her life choices.
But yeah, how have the Red Sox done since they traded Rafael? You looking that up?
Yeah, I'm looking up their record.
Oh, cool. Well, while she does that, yeah, Rob, this is a crazy time. I mean, I wish I had a little bit more analysis for you, but yeah, he was a great hit. I mean, I know that Rafael Devers is one of the hearts and souls of the Red Sox team, and it's crazy, but no loyalty in sports anymore, baby.
No. What day was Father's Day?
The 14th. The 14th. Or I'm sorry, you might be right. Hold on.
15th.
This is what happens when a bunch of journalists get together. Yes, the 15th.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. That was a wake-up call. Be better, but that's about all I got for you. That's my analysis.
They've won 4 out of the last 10. So not
okay,
great.
so yeah, they've been. It was not the wake up call that I'm sure the Red Sox owners and front office thought it would be. So yeah, that's all we got for you on that. But yes, for you baseball fans,
I forgot they just swept the Yankees, and then they traded them. It's like,
wow. I know you were like, could that have happened like 2 days ago?
They wore these awful jerseys. Awful. It's actually my they're not them, but
okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're to the shout out segments. Any shout outs for you?
Shout out to our friends and family for helping us move. We just bought a house last Monday. And have been moving in for about a week now, and everyone's been tremendous. We would not have been able to get it done without everybody that helped. So giant shout out to all of them. My mom was up here for almost a week helping us with stuff. So that was really, really great.
All right. I shouted out all the nonprofits and everybody doing work. Shouts out to all the mothers out there. Morgan just was a great example of this. Shouts out to all the
had a full day in about an hour and a half.
Shouts out to all the parents that make it work, especially as it's the summer. You got to make it work now. Obviously, you might have kids a little older than Madison, so you're doing camps, you're doing sports, you're doing something. So shouts out to you for making it work and giving people like my mother a break because they've been dealing with y'all kids for 6 months. So or whatever the school year is at whatever place y'all at. I think it's 6 months. I'm of the mindset that shouts out to all the parents making it work. What else? Who else do we want to shout out? Shout out the NCAA because I want this to be a record show. One of y'all probably mouths on the ground saying, Colin shouting out the NCAA. Shout out the NCAA for actually doing right by your fans and actually expanding basketball. I hope this is an indicator of what's going to happen in a couple of weeks when y'all expand the March Madness tournament. So continue your great positive PR. I want to keep talking about you positively. I know it's not going to last, but I want to keep talking about you positively.
Yeah.
So shouts out to that. Like I said, shouts out to our fans, great, like RC and everybody else. Shouts out to you guys, whether you are loud in the comments section. And we appreciate RC for that. There's no knock on him at all. Me saying it like that. But, whether you are one of our frequent commenters, you are a person that like, comment, subscribe, you share it, you comment. Like I said, you saw with RC, the invitation is always open. Just let us stick around if you're a real person or not. We know RC's a real person. So let us stick around if you're a real person. And maybe you can come on this show because we are getting to the summer. We got a July birthday on this podcast. So it's not Morgan. So there may be a time. So, I'm of the mindset that this is great. So shouts out to y'all. And now we'll get to he's not him, she's not her, and they aren't them. And I might have a they are them for the first time in a while. So you want to go or should I? Or you want to take advantage of the baby? Okay.
I can go. Yeah. Well, she's quiet. My he's not him is Justin Tucker or Justin Tucker is the kicker. They put out his punishment from the NFL. It's 10 games suspended. And, that's just a reminder that people in power will do things that suck sometimes. And that, just because you I guess have power doesn't give you the right to take advantage of people. Those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, Justin Tucker was accused of some sexual misconduct for massage therapists, similar to the Deshaun Watson situation that everyone at this point knows about. So he's been suspended for 10 games. He's currently not on an NFL roster, so doesn't exactly matter, but good of the NFL for doing something, I guess. Sometimes they aren't the best at getting involved. So glad that they were able to do the right thing in this situation. And then my they aren't them is a little sillier, but it is the Red Sox jerseys for the Yankees Red Sox series over Father's Day weekend. Just if you haven't seen them, go look them up. They're atrocious. They wore bright green jerseys one day in to represent Fenway Park. Bright green jerseys, the Red Sox.
Now worse than the creamsicle, than the new creamsicle jerseys that the Buccaneers have. Worse than that.
Yeah, I don't mind the creamsicle. Those are like, I don't know. I don't mind those. At least it's shade of the color that you actually wear. I don't know. These were horrendous. It took way too long for us to figure out why they were wearing them. We turned the game on like the second inning, and there was just no mention of it. Couldn't figure out why they had green jerseys on. They were bad. So, and I understand you do the hometown jerseys or whatever, but make them better. I don't know. Kylan?
All right. So my They aren't them is, earlier this week, I think I was about to say a Cardinals game, at a Diamondbacks game. I know Morgan heard about this. My they aren't them is the sports fans, which Morgan and I are both a part of, but right now I got the media hat on. So my they aren't them is the sports fans, because like as many beautiful examples as we've had of the people, the soccer fans in Philadelphia, New York, and New Jersey, and Boston, with the World Cup coming up, all these soccer matches, all that positive fandom that we've seen, the international fandom coming to America of how like lit these European audiences are of soccer. But I have to, my thing aren't them, it's the baseball fans, because a Diamondbacks player was brought to tears because heckling them, and oh, heckling, that's not bad, Colin. What he needs to strap himself up by the bootstraps. That's what's wrong with this generation. They're so sensitive. But in this case, this person, whoever it was making fun of, I think it's an outfielder for the or something, and that person's mom died in a DUI accident. Like she wound up getting hit by a drunk driver, and like is dead now. And so like he was just brought to tears. Those of you might have seen the pictures, or you might be Googling it now as we speak. But that was just crazy to me, because like if that was anywhere else, and that was Philadelphia, people would be like, oh, see what's wrong with these Philly sports fans. But I'm like, the fact that, I mean, they covered it, and the fan wound up getting kicked out. But that was just a crazy, crazy thing. Like, I get it, right? I've heckled people, but have decorum? I mean, like, I get it. Like, you saying, hey, don't catch the ball, or something similar. Like, hey, don't effing catch the ball, whatever you say, right? Obviously, heckling is fine. But there's times where you cross the line, we talk about people's dead relatives. Like, these players are really sensitive about their dead relatives. Like we saw it with the NBA draft, see it in the NFL all the time. Like, especially when you don't have a mother, right? Like Morgan and I are very blessed. Our mothers are still here. But like, I'm of the mindset that like, losing a mom, especially as a son, like firstborn son or whatever, like your son and mom relationships are very important, right? Like, that's the bread and butter. And so like that's a very important thing. I would never, like, even as worse as I've gotten with some people, I would never be like, oh, your mom this, your mom that, and the Bulls' mom is dead. That don't make no sense. Like, have some decorum when you're heckling people. Like, keep it to the sport and the stuff. Stay out of the personal life, because it just makes you look bad. Now that fan will probably never be allowed at a Diamondbacks game again. The outfielder probably needs some counseling now, because it brought back some old memories of stuff. So it's just not good. It's not a good look for you. It doesn't really help the athlete. I mean, you're kind of lucky, because the way these because baseball, Morgan and I have both been to baseball games. Like, it could have just been, because they're good enough to like be able to target you. I mean, I'm not saying that he should have did this, but maybe he hit a home run and intentionally made it go over there. So you never know. Like these baseball players are better than most people think when it comes to being able to target their home runs. That's where I'm at. My they aren't them. I have not had a she's not her. Kim Mulkey is not doing anything right now, so I don't have a she's not her. He's not him. I would say Draymond Green, but like, I'm really tired of talking about Draymond Green. He did have a little bit of growth this year, this time with his radio interview that he just did, but that might be the most growth that we'll see from him. So, he's not him, Ace Bailey. Like, and the only reason I say this is because he got some bad advice. He should be a Sixer right now, or at worst, a Washington Wizard. But he tried to game the system. He tried to bring football logic. He tried to think he was Eli Manning, and he wasn't Eli. Like, Ace, this is basketball, man. The NBA doesn't do that. Like, it works in the NFL because all you need is to convince somebody that you're good. It doesn't work in the NBA where these organizations know they're going to force you to play for them because you have no other recourse, right? They'll kick you out of the league if they don't play. Like, in this case, this is something that the NFL is more lenient on than the NBA, because the NBA, whoever drafts you, you play for them, and you have no recourse. You play, right? In the NFL, they give you a little bit of recourse, right? But the NBA, they'll be like, you out the league. So it's unfortunate, but you ended up in Utah. You ended up right where God wanted you to be. And it's unfortunate that you played these games, and you played stupid games, and you got a stupid prize, which was going to Utah, which, again, like I said earlier, they're a good little team. You know, 2 to 3 years, they might be a playoff contender. But right now, you in NBA purgatory, man. Like that used to be Minnesota. Now it's Utah. Like you're in Western Conference purgatory. So that's why he's not him. And then they are them because I do want to shout some people out. I mean, I haven't talked about it yet. I know Morgan's kind of surprised because I know Dad is probably like, when's Kyler going to talk about this? CFB 2026, man. College football 2026 is coming. I want to make all my CFB fans that tuned in last summer and we're hoping, when will I talk about this? Man, those deep dives. I'm so excited for this game coming out July 10th worldwide, July 7th again. EA is not paying either me or Morgan for this. So I just really love this game. so you know, I'm of the mindset that game was good. Even Madden looks good. EA might have a hit. So they are them too because I am a football fan. It's just football's 1B to me. But when Morgan knows when Madden CFB comes out, like I'm playing this whole podcast around that. So like I'm like, we gotta do it Sunday, Morgan. So like, no, I'm so excited for this game. We will talk about that soon. But King Kylan 2012 on PSN, there's crossplay now. But if you have a PlayStation and you want to check it out, and you want to get God on the Sticks, just let me know. KING KYLAN 2012. Well, I know Morgan doesn't care about this. She gets enough of it from Dan, so I know she doesn't care about this. But you know, that's where I'm at. They are them to EA. Love it. Would love to test the game or be a part of it in some way. Just saying, if any EA Sports people, you want a Sports Hour Plus with Miller and Watson in the game, we'll do it. Will we, Morgan?
Sure. I'll get on Dan's.
You know, we'll do it. But yeah, that's it. That's all. Like I said, happy 9 years to WatsonSportsTakes.com. Happy coming up 2 years to Plus Miller and Watson. And you know, like we said, come join in. Shouts out to Maddie for keeping it interesting. First podcast.
No, so that's great.
Yeah, at the end, right? But yeah, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You know, don't forget to follow us on X/Twitter. I'm going to be a little bit more boring now because basketball is over. We didn't get the hockey update from Morgan. I don't know if she got any final hockey updates. I know Florida went back to back.
It was a great Stanley Cup Finals. It was great. It was awesome. Lots of OT games, which is always fun for playoff hockey.
Okay. Well, yeah, at M_Indy_Miller. And it may or may not change because I know Morgan talked about this earlier, so it may or may not change in a previous episode. Kyler at Kyler W. Watson. We're going to get back on the schedule as long as the Tribune and our other stuff cooperates. It should be cooperated because next week is July 4th. So look for a podcast in the morning.
That's it. All good.
Yeah. See y'all later. Have a good one. No, Morgan's going to hit them bubbles for y'all.